Today I want to talk about, well, there's a bunch of different things I was contemplating talking about today. I'm going to try and not be controversial. For what it's worth, I always try to not be controversial. There's always at least somebody that gets offended by my talk. Please just don't. Like, I think one of the things I want to convey, like, not everybody sees me all the time. I'm Master Chim, Justin Garcia. I founded the Jungle Gym 20-something years ago, right? You know, I was a one-man show. It started with me and a handful of guys. Steve was one of my first students. Angel, one of my first students. The fact that they don't walk right is not a testament to the fact that they've been trained. Like, I can't take the blame for them not being able to move like human beings anymore. Like, look, I still feel good, right? So, but the thing is, in all the years that I've been doing this, one of the things that has been a constant is I am dedicated to people becoming better people through what happens on the mats. Now, there was a time where I was so sort of immature as an instructor, where I thought the only thing that mattered was specifically how you got better on the mat. It didn't take long, however, to realize that the more consistent the pressure was on the mat, the more people generally tended to become better people outside of it, right, and off of it. So for me, this journey of starting off by myself, eventually growing to the point where I had instructors teaching for me, there's multiple locations now. You know, it's been really me finding creative ways of allowing men and women to be better at who they are and what it is that they do. Now, I will be the first one to admit that sometimes the delivery of that message is not comfortable. I am born and raised in the Bronx, so like you're going to get a little bit of that with some of my analogies and the way that I describe things and some of the references that I'm using. But at the heart of it, I'm still here to make people better at what it is that they do. Now, the language that we do that is through martial arts training. In martial arts, there's pressure. If there's no pressure, there's not going to be any progress. That's just the way it works. Very early on, I used to coach Little League. I was a terrible Little League coach. I didn't know anything about baseball. Kind of hard to coach a Little League team if you don't know anything about baseball. I knew how to play it, but like I had this one nerd that used to do all the baseball stuff. I was basically a martial arts instructor of a Little League baseball team. And I had the same pressure that I eventually had in the martial arts environment, just putting it on these 12, 13-year-old kids, this travel baseball team. This is many, many moons ago. And they had the most successful record in the history of that program, with me knowing nothing about baseball. Why? Because they knew nothing about pressure. And that's all that I knew. When I was a teenager, young adult, getting into my early 20s, I was always a maniac. Anything that I did 110%. And I didn't realize that other people didn't want to do that too. So when I first opened the school, there was a lot of pressure that pushed a lot of people out. I didn't know how to sort of deliver it so that it was able to be received by the students, these lessons that I was putting out there. So basically, the people that stuck around were the people that could just take it. The people that could take the in-your-face, constant, feedback loop of criticism, right? It's like, yep, nope, that's wrong. Do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. And there was no negotiation. I was also a terrible businessman, right? The old story is I'd be sparring. I fought, many moons ago, and when I was preparing for one of my fights, if somebody came in to ask about classes, if they dared to say, do you guys have a flyer or something? I would take my mouthpiece out and go, do you see it? I'm sparring. Terrible businessman. But I was always dedicated to the people on the mat. So very rarely, and this is a distinction worth acknowledging, very rarely do the students become offended about any of the messages that I put out there. Very rarely do the students become offended by the pressure that they're expected to endure. So when people who are observing people who are on the boundaries of this tribe, family members supporting people that are here training, I'm okay with not everybody getting the message completely, but one of the things that I implore you to just consider is, if my people here aren't getting better, what does that say about my legacy? Right? If everybody here sucks, if everybody here hates being here, if everybody here, is just doing a poor representation of what we signed up to learn, then what does that say about my legacy? The one thing we don't tolerate, though, here is having to convince people to be awesome, to convince people to become better. We're not here for that. It's very easy to believe in yourself here, because you'll get the support, you'll get the tools. But we're not here for that. We're not here to coddle people. We're not here to tell you it's okay to fail. We will say it's normal to fail. Hey, everybody wins, so long as you compete. There's no losers, there's winners and learners. Like, all of that is nonsense. When you compete, there's a winner and a loser. I would offer you, without the loser, there is no winner. Without the loser, there's no value in winning. If we don't lose when we're not doing our best, how do we know to change? One of the great things about jiu-jitsu is if you suck, you get tapped. Doesn't matter your belt. I've been submitted by my students' training. Doesn't matter if you're a pro fighter, an amateur, I used to wrestle, I could bench 400 pounds. None of that matters. If you suck, you suck. And we all get caught. And there's a humility in that. So I think a lot of times, and this is where I blame everybody else for getting offended at my stuff, there are times where if you're not operating with a level of humility, you're a bunch of answers, walking around looking for problems. You have all the answers. So if somebody's not asking you the right questions, you feel offended. If somebody's not offering you the ability to validate what you already know, you become offended. My whole thing is, I'm on a ladder just like everybody else. I was always very coachable when I was a student. I played team sports in school. I was always coachable. I was always the guy, maybe as I watched a lot of those kung fu movies growing up, ninja movies during the 80s. Like, I wanted the master to tell me to punch the wall for 3 days. Like, I wanted that guy, like, as a kid. So it certainly informed how I dealt with the dynamic with coaches as I got older. But there are a lot of people who don't understand the value in those types of relationships. You cannot push yourself to your limits. You need other people to help you do that. Because there's a certain point where you start lying to yourself. There's a certain point where you start telling yourself that's enough. And you need somebody next to you to say, no, you have more. You have more. A lot of guys training, I don't feel good. And I would say, listen, you're not putting out enough effort to give yourself a heart attack. You're good. I need to sit down. Why? The room's dizzy. Well, what's going to happen if you fall? We're standing on a mat. There's a certain realism that I like to bring to the relationship that we have when we're training that a lot of people just aren't used to seeing. A lot of people aren't used to, I'm going to try my best to not curse. A lot of people are not used to getting called on their bullshit. So what'll happen is, they'll see somebody in regular life, and they got their bullshit. They know the person they're talking to has their bullshit. And there's this unwritten agreement. I'm not going to say anything about theirs. They're going to have to say anything about mine. And we're both going to agree to exist just the way we are without any pressure. I'm not that guy. Right? My boy walked in today. I told him he was walking like his mother. That's what we do. I used to be a lot heavier than this. Angel used to send me text messages. Did you wake up fat again this morning? There's a certain point where if you don't have a group of people that are going to tell you what you can't see or what you won't admit to yourself, how do you know what's going on? How do you know? I don't need anybody. I don't need anybody. I rely on myself, says the guy who lives in an apartment in a city with the electric grid supporting his lights, the food at the supermarket. Like, we're not designed to do this by ourselves. But people want to think that that's only like when things are going good, you want to have people to celebrate with. When you need a favor, you want somebody to be able to ask. Like, there are those easy applications. But in general, there's just stuff we can't see. So if you're hearing stuff that pressures you and you feel a certain way about it, good. I really appreciate and enjoy when my students like me. It's not my job, though. They need to respect me. They need to know who I am on Monday is who I am on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. I'm the same guy. I was fortunate enough to have some success competing. I'm fortunate enough to have some success in business. So I don't need to use anybody for anything. Which helps people accept what I say a lot of times. Because they understand I'm just saying this because you need to hear it. I don't need to control people, manipulate people, tell people what to do. Like, do what you think is best. It doesn't matter to me. But if you're lying to yourself and I can see it, I'm going to say it. And everybody's going to be better off being surrounded by people like that. If you think about, when you promise yourself something, do you follow through on it? Well, a good way to tell if somebody is going to follow through on things for themselves, ask or observe, do they follow through when they say they're going to do something for other people? There are people who aren't here right now, there's promotions that are supposed to be here. Oh, I had something, I forgot, I did this, I did that. It's like, well, I'm not the one that said you were coming. You said you were coming. Okay. I just know now just not to listen to you. That's all it is. Right? One of the things I said before, the only way people can let you down is if you misset your expectations. But there's something tragic in never being let down by the people in your lives. Because it means your expectations are right where they need to be. You want to be able to hope that they're going to constantly get better. You want to hope that they're going to make the right decisions, that they're going to become stronger, that they're going to follow through on their word. But we all know that's not the experience. So we're responsible for ourselves. So yeah, you want to follow your word. Yeah, you want to be able to push. You want to be able to expose yourself to pressure. But at the heart of it, I think one of the things, probably the gist of this talk is, you're not doing it by yourself. It's very easy to lie to yourself if there's nobody there to call you on it. But that's a decision that you have to make. All right, guys, thanks for listening. So what we're going to do now...